Welcome back to the channel, guys. Hugh Carnahan, the Kaizen Man. Welcome to the channel that teaches you to eliminate the struggle from your life. Now, that's a very provocative intro and thumbnail, isn't it? I'm going to share with you today why Layens hives are so much better. But the foundation of all of that, especially if you're a new beekeeper, is what am I doing, right? I subscribe to natural beekeeping. You can see it here on the screen. It was written by Dr. Leo Saroskin. It's called Keeping Bees with a Smile. Amazing book. There's a link to it in the description if you haven't seen it already. It's also been called Darwinian Beekeeping. Now, with that, almost 99% of all beekeeping is done with Langstroth hives, and those are to manufacture honey at the bee's expense. And it leads to a lot of over-processing and a lot of effort and a lot of work, and you get rewarded with a lot of honey, but it's at the bee's expense. Well, all of that extra work you have to do is a lot. So with natural beekeeping in this horizontal hive, this is mimicking a natural tree hollow. A Langstroth hive is not deep enough to sustain how bees naturally behave. So Layens frames are better if you want to do little to no work on your bees and you want them to survive the winter. With a Langstroth hive, you have to do a lot of additional work, moving stuff, lifting stuff. I do none of that. This is at waist height. I'll pull the frames out as I want to, when I want to. But the most important thing is the Layens hive is deeper. Well, as it's deeper, what happens is the bees cluster in the winter, and as they consume the honey, they will move slowly up the frame. If they move up the frame and they hit the top of the frame and there's not enough honey, then they die. In a Langstroth hive, you can kind of take care of that with some feeding apparatus or all this crap. I do none of that. You make the frame deep enough, then the bees will take care of it themselves and they will have enough honey to make it through the winter. A Langstroth hive is not deep enough. Because of that, the bees eat their way up, eat their way up, eat their way up, and then they run out. Now, some of you are thinking, oh, well, they'll just go to the box above it. That's a very energy resource thing to do. Oh, I'll just feed them. Yes, you can do those things. I don't do any of that. My bees are happy, healthy, make it through the winter. All you gotta do is you have a deep enough frame. Now, 99% of all the nukes you buy will be a Langstroth frame. So the rest of this video is a how-to of how to properly, like a pro, transfer your frames from a Langstroth frame into a Layens frame without a risk of hive beetles. There's a terrifying beginner mistake. You can check that video out right there. Don't do those things. I did those things and killed the first hive I ever had. So if you want to learn what not to do, check that out. Guys, especially at the beginning, do the research before you buy. If you're a super experienced beekeeper, I know I'm going to get a bunch of people in the comments screaming at me. Don't worry about it. Do your research. Learn about natural beekeeping. I do almost nothing. I check them twice a year. Check them in the spring, check them harvest, and then winterize in the fall. That's it. No pesticides, no lifting boxes, no anything. It is actually that simple. Stick around to the end of the video and you're gonna see some crazy footage of bees in the hive as we're doing the transfer. It's some cool stuff. We'll get into the video. I'm gonna start my smoker here. We should have done this yesterday because we bought the nukes, right? But what ended up happening is that it started thunderstorming yesterday. So what I did was I just brought the nuke back. You'll see that I just put the nuke directly in here, and so there's just bees everywhere. And so I'm just gonna give it a little poof just to calm them down, and I'll reach in there. I'm gonna take this nuke out and begin the transformation process. This is a standard nuke. As far as American beekeepers are concerned, this is what you typically see. We're all used to standard nuke, right? The problem is this uses a Layens frame, which normally come with wires in it, so I actually had to cut the wires out. Now you can avoid all of this by just getting a swarm catcher and catching your own hives. It's August, it's super late in the season, so I'm trying to just get bees. I'm not gonna do a honey harvest this year. I'm gonna go through the process of how we get all the bees in here, and then we're gonna transfer the frames over. So I'm gonna go looking for the queen, just to calm them down. See, they've already just stocked this thing full of propolis. So we're gonna carefully pull this frame out. Hopefully Hopefully it doesn't damage any of the other frames. Okay. Do not see the queen on this side, but this has got lots of nice brood and honey, capped honey. And I don't see it on that side, so I'm gonna invert this very gently. This just went in this Nuke box yesterday, and they already have this thing propolis shut. Look at this edge here. Don't see her on this frame. Hopefully she's on one of the others. Not see the queen on this one either. Oh, here she is. She's on this frame right here. All right, so here's the queen. So we came for our prize. She's laying right there. Let's see. Here she is toward the bottom. Very gently brush her off. Give this a little shake here. Normally you'll see brood and then capped honey on the edges. There's a little bit capped honey there. You can see the back side. Brood and no capped honey. You see some larvae up there. These here, these little bump outs that you see, these are backup queen cell hives. Problem is, this won't fit in that frame. So we gotta cut it, because I'm gonna save this top portion. I'm gonna cut this nub off. I'm going to use the skill saw. I'm gonna go ahead and lop this guy off here. Keep it flush if you can. You want it nice and flush. The inside of this frame is 14.5 inches for the Layens frame. Right there's a line. There's a line. All right. Laser line there. Line that up. I missed a little bit. Set these guys here. Now, here's a very critical part. You do not want any gaps between this frame and that frame. If you have gaps, hive beetles can hide. So when you do this installation, now this is why I cut it a little bit tall, right? You'll notice this is kind of hard to get in there. The first time I did it, the mistake was I had it up against the sides. Well, there were cracks because the frames weren't square. This time it's gonna be in the center, dead center. I'm gonna push it in so there's no gap up here. And I mean nothing. Then at the bottom, same thing. Make sure there's no gap at the bottom. Try to make it as flush as you can. All right? Now it's relatively straight. Through one of these frame holes, I'm gonna put an exterior screw. There are no gaps. No hive beetles can get in there. So that means the bees can go in there and do their business. So we're not gonna rotate this upward. Don't worry about all this sawdust. The bees will have something to do and they'll clean all their comb. So we're gonna go down like this, gently in here. We're gonna slide this over and hopefully give them something to do. Now another thing you might wanna put down is 2 of these foundation cones. Put it in, you only need a top third there. I'm just gonna give them another little bit of stuff to do, all right? Then I'm gonna close this up very gently and carefully. And you don't wanna leave any spaces like this when you close this stuff up, guys. You're gonna actually wanna butt it all up against each other. And again, I'm a little nervous because I don't know where the queen's at. All the bees are staying in the box, so I'm assuming the queen's still there. That's good. All right, now on to the next frame. Now, there's something's going on here. This frame can't close all the way. Don't know why. See if I can't turn it around, if that makes a difference. Brood we're gonna cut off by accident. We'll just see. Remember, I have 0 experience doing any of this. This is the 3rd time I've even touched bees. I did this the first time I touched bees, without any idea what we're doing. So it's not rocket science. Some education goes a long way, and hopefully you guys can learn from my mistakes. One of the reasons, the main reason I am doing this video at all is to help the next beekeeper who has no idea what they're doing. Give them the confidence that without knowing what you're doing, you can get out there and beekeep.